typically what binds us is Abraham, and what binds us is God. So if I'm Lebanese, I go to a Maronite Catholic church, they're praying to Allah, right? In Arabic, they're going to say Allah. I was like, oh, it's all the same. That was a big epiphany for me, right? Then we see that Abraham is where Yahweh, God. So we have that, right? That binds us. But just the Abrahamic. Can you just give us a quick Twitter biblical lesson on just how we see that as Christians, Jews, and Muslims, our family tree of Abraham? And I know it can change because sometimes in the Quran and in the Bible there might be some different names used, but just a general, real broad stroke on why do we all come from Abraham. I'm going to put that on you, Rabbi.
Why we come from Abraham, or how?
How does that work biblically? So what is it? So we got Abraham, right, the patriarch, and then from Abraham, they go from there. Just give us a little guide on the family tree. So you got Judaism, then you got Islam, and then you got Christianity.
I mean, the easiest way to do it is look, you've got Abraham and Sarah. They have, I shouldn't even say Abraham and Sarah. You have Abraham, okay? And there's a reason I retracted that statement. You got Abraham. Abraham has how many wives? 3, okay? Seemingly we can reduce the 3 down to 2. Yeah. His first wife, Hagar, right? Hagar. Maidservant, Egyptian maidservant, given to Abraham, right? In Hebrew, the word Hagar, the ger, stranger, the stranger. So you've got Abraham, Hagar, and Ishmael. I'm going to leave that, respectively, to Shaikh. Abraham has Sarah. Sarah, of course, granted Isaac. Isaac then has Rebekah. So then the Isaac and Rebekah bloodline, Jacob and Esau. Jacob then takes for himself not 1, not 2, not 3, 4 wives, at least that we're aware of, right? Rachel, Leah, Bilhah, and Zilpah, right? They have a whole mess of children, right? 12 sons and a daughter, Dinah, right? From there, of course, then we get the whole saga with the Joseph saga and everything else. And that's where it really stops, right? Because then when we get to Exodus, we get the Moses story. So, but from a lineage, from a Judaic lineage, you have Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. That's where our bloodline goes. But I think it's also important to recognize what happens before Abraham, which is why, as Jews and of Western faith, that we say that there is one God. We have in Judaism what we call midrash. These are stories that the rabbis created 2,000 some odd years ago.
You got 90 seconds.
To fill in the biblical gaps. The story goes very simply. Abraham's father was a man named Terach. Terach was an idol maker. He made idols. And the story goes that one day Abraham's father went away, probably to get some really unhealthy, greasy, nasty shawarma, right? You can tell where my appetite lies. Anyway. And Abraham sees all these idols. So he takes a hammer and he smashes every single idol, with the exception of the largest idol, and places the hammer in his hand. So Abraham's father, Terach, comes back home and says to Abraham, "What have you done?" And he goes, "Father, it wasn't me." Abraham's father goes, "What are you, silly? Of course it was." And he goes, "No, father, for you see that large idol there got very jealous of all the other idols and smashed it." And Abraham's father says, "But Abraham, that's impossible." And Abraham says, "Listen to what you just said, Father. You fashion idols for other people to worship when there is only one God." That is where, at least in the Judaic context, our story begins with Abraham, the father of monotheism. And I would argue that Abraham not only is the father of monotheism, but Abraham becomes the father of ethical monotheism. The belief in one God through our actions and our deeds that are meritorious in some way, that give us meaning and give us purpose.